Welcome to the educational research section of www.happynumbers.org. Please forgive me, I have a cold and so my voice is sort of leaving. But anyway, today's lesson is on how to read an empirical research article. And by empirical, we mean something that can be verified by observation or a scientific research article. So we're going to go through the process, and you may want to take some notes because this might be helpful in some of your research article critiques. So let's take a look at it. Number one, I'm suggesting that you should briefly skim the article and focus on the title, the abstract, and the major headings that are listed. Now, the title should give you sort of the main focus of the article, and it should be relatively brief. Usually they're between 6 and 15 words, although there's no standard, but it shouldn't be a very long thing, and it should tell you exactly what the article is about. And a good abstract, which will be right below the title, is just sort of one paragraph that gives you a whole overview of what's going on. And it should be an overview of the area of inquiry or the research question. It should talk a little bit about who the study is about, what the participants are, what variables are involved, and what are the most salient findings. And the purpose of the abstract is you may be looking for different kinds of articles, and so you don't want to read an entire article, so you just go through the abstract. And a good abstract will give you a good indication of what is in the article, and you can decide whether you'd want to use it or not. And then you want to skim just for the major headings, so you get a sense of what is going to be, what headings are going to be, or what areas are going to be in the article. So that's the first step. Second step is you want to read the article, and you want to focus on a couple of questions, 3 I have here. What is the research study about? What is the topic or the focus that the authors are examining? How was it conducted? What methods were used? And what were the findings? What were the results? And what did the authors conclude? So those are that's your roadmap for sort of reading the article. And the typical sections you will find in almost in a lot of empirical research articles are the introduction, a review of the related literature or information, a methodology section or results, and a conclusion and recommendations. Now, these may not appear in every empirical research article. Sometimes the review of the lit is incorporated in the introduction. It's part of the introduction. But basically, this is the major points in a research article. So we're going to go through them one by one. So let's take a look at the introduction. Now, the introduction should generally identify the problem. Identify the problem. This is the problem we're going to look at. And then it supplies you with some background and some need. And so you say, oh, well, yes, I can see. Okay, this is a problem, and now this is sort of the background of the problem and the need. And generally then they'll state the purpose of the research, and you could say, yeah, well, okay, that purpose is going to meet that need or that problem. Then if it's an empirical research article, it may outline the research questions, or if it's using statistics, then there might be a research hypothesis. And finally, a good introduction will define any important and esoteric terms that may be unfamiliar to the reader. So those are the things that generally are in the introduction of a research article. The second section of a research article, although it may not be labeled as review of the literature, and as I said before, it may actually become part of the introduction, is the review of the related literature. And a review of the related literature is a summary of the research that's already been done. It sort of supplies a historical context for where this problem or area of inquiry comes from. It identifies any changes or trends that have taken place over time. And it also will look at the theoretical underpinnings. In other words, what's the theoretical underpinning of this study? Suppose you were reading an article that was looking at using positive reinforcement to increase appropriate verbal behavior of a student. Well, positive reinforcement is an applied behavior analysis term that comes right out of learning theory. So those are the theoretical underpinnings in applied behavior analysis. A good review of the literature is not a study-by-study summary, like so-and-so said such, so-and-so said such, so. It's more a really well-organized, tight, expository essay setting up the background, the historical context, the trends, and the theoretical underpinning of what the researchers are looking at. Now we have the methods section, and this probably, of all of the sections, is probably the most critical. This section should be written like a cookbook. If you were going to bake a pie and you went to the pumpkin pie section, you're going to bake a pumpkin pie and you opened it up, there would be the list of all of the ingredients and step by step exactly what you want to do. So a good methods section is written in such a way that if you decided to replicate the study, if you wanted to replicate what the researchers did, all you had to do was follow their methods section and you would be able to reproduce their study. And it outlines, it usually talks about the participants in the study, the setting, the data collection procedures. Some kind of data is being collected, so how is that data being collected? Instruments, if there are data collection instruments, keep in mind that interviews and surveys, those are all data collection instruments also, but there could be a thermometer or an MRI, that's data collection instruments also. And if there are data collection instruments, then they should address the reliability of those data collection instruments. And then it should outline the data analysis procedures. How are they going to analyze the data once they've collected that? And again, if it's well written, then you should be able to replicate it. The results section, obviously, here's where the authors will present their findings, and they may use tables and charts and figures and diagrams. Now, if it's a qualitative study, not an experimental study, but qualitative, then the data will be in narrative form, lengthy narrative descriptions. If it's quantitative, then the data will be presented in numerical form, and there'll be some kind of statistical analysis that's used. And don't get blown away by the statistical formulas and everything like that. Look at how the authors are interpreting those statistical measures, and that'll give you a clue to it. And obviously, the results section, the results of their research should parallel the research questions, but that goes without saying. And then the final section usually is your conclusions and recommendations, although sometimes it's called discussion or implications, or maybe all of those. It could be called all of those. And it's a summary of your results. It draws the important conclusions from the results. It ties back, or it reverts back to the review of the literature, which was the background and historical context. It possibly talks about what practical implications there are for this. How can we use this right now? What theoretical implications are there? How does this extend our knowledge base? It may include recommendations for further research, and usually a good research study will talk about its own limitations. And when you're looking at the conclusions and recommendations, you want to check to make sure that the authors do not go beyond their data and make claims that their data doesn't really support. That's an important piece. Okay, a final note, as you read, evaluate the strength. Yeah, as you're reading, try and evaluate the strengths and weaknesses. In good research, the methodology and reporting is usually good. The overall impact on existing knowledge is significant, and the overall impact on educational practice can have important implications also. So that if you can answer all three of these, if all three of these are sort of in the affirmative, then you probably have a pretty good piece of research there. Okay, let's just take one more. Okay, let's just take a look at sort of a model of how you might view. So we have research methodology, okay, the method of how it's carried out, and we can have good methodology and yucky methodology. And we have research reporting, how it's reported. And we can have good reporting and yucky reporting. Well, if we have a piece of research where the methodology is good and the reporting is good, that's a good deal. You have a good piece of research. You want to hold on to that and use that if you're going to use if you're looking for stuff for your review of the literature. If you have research that has yucky methodology, but it's reported well, it's written very well, you need to really be aware of that. That's a bad deal, because you don't want to get sucked in there, because if the methodology is poor, then we cannot trust the results, no matter how well it's written. If we have research methodology that is good, we have good methodology, but the reporting of it is not that good, well, we need to be careful here too, because maybe this might be valuable information. It's reported poorly, but that's okay. If the methodology is sound, then it may have some value for us. And then, of course, if you have yucky methodology and you have yucky reporting, well, then there's no need to even look at it. Just throw that away. If I ever give you anything to read and it is yucky methodology and yucky reporting, don't even bother reading it. Well, okay, so here is your assignment. You have 2 research articles to read, and to read critically and to write up your evaluation of them using the criteria that we just discussed in the video. And both of these articles are on Blackboard, and they should be included in your course syllabus also. I should have included them. And they are this prompting bar patrons with signs to take free condoms. This is from the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, and an experimental investigation of bad karma and its relationships to grades of college students, Schwartz's Faker syndrome. Okay, so read those articles and evaluate them with the criteria that we presented in the video, and thank you very much for your attention.